over the weekend, we left the day before Thanksgiving, and the world was kind of going along some new lockdowns in Austria and Germany and such. And now we have a new variant that's popped up that everyone is concerned about.
Yes, he particularly is so concerned about.
That's how I feel. I feel you, Boris Johnson. Also, I feel like my skin looks like that. This is a personification of how I feel about it. But also, it's important now to figure out how government and markets feel about it because it's going to affect us all. Now, this is a variant that's
Will it affect us all, or is it already affecting us because we're giving it too much credence?
Everything. It's affecting us because the markets are reacting to it. So by means of living in a connected economy, we're affected by it.
Okay.
Certain travel is being shut down between South Africa and European nations. And there have already been cases detected in most of Europe and Australia. Over the weekend, Dr. Fauci was asked if he thought that this was something America should be concerned about. And he says, well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's already here. It's kind of a flippant comment.
Yeah, he's like, I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it's already here. I have, this is, I guess we go with sort of the same evidence we've been using for a lot of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised. Like if someone told me, like, aren't you the guy?
Yeah, you should
like
be
you're
the
the guy
calculating
shouldn't
the risk
be surprised.
of that.
Like you should be the guy that shouldn't be surprised. Right? Like you and I should be surprised, right? Not
Yes.
Dr. Fauci. Like he should be the guy that's not surprised by this. And yet he says we should be prepared to do anything, including new lockdowns, he says. The United States' top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci, said on Sunday that Americans should be prepared to do anything and everything. And that includes whether or not we need new lockdowns and new mandates.
Now, look, I've always been one to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think his job sucks. And people die, and it's really hard to know what's the right thing to do. But he took the job of his own volition. And I don't want to be, I'm trying so hard to not go to the crazy place lately, you guys, just because you know what it feels like to feel you're.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not in the crazy place. And I don't even want to say people in the crazy place are in the crazy place anymore. What I'm saying is that I would like to think rationally and only react to what I know. And what I know is that at the end of last week, we had a massive sell-off. And the United States was having to dip into oil reserves, and the stock market didn't like the way that was going. And now, when we have this new Omicron variant, it makes a difference because now the markets are starting to come back because we think, oh, well, people will need things more. This is good for the economy. We can put more stimulus, right? And so,
just take a look at the headline here
on Charmin.
Yes, exactly.
Or Moderna. Look, I mean, this is, I hate why this blacks out, but this is CNBC headline moments ago. This is literally moments ago. Breaking. Look at the top of your screen. Can you guys see that at home? Look at this.
No, I can't even see that.
Well, it kind of updated. Okay, well, it said breaking Dow futures rebound by 300 points after Friday's big sell-off. But earlier, just a few moments ago, the breaking headline right there was what was up early this morning was Moderna stock. Mm-hmm. Zoom stock is up.
I mean, it's like
Pfizer is up. Why do you think these things are happening?
I don't want to say causality. I'm just going to say that it doesn't pass the smell test, especially when you have this morning doctors in South Africa are saying that the cases that they have seen of the Omicron virus have been quite mild.
Right.
So even though it may be a virus that has up to 50 mutations, that doesn't mean it's 50 times more scary or dangerous to the human body. David, what is it that you know that you're... I'm sorry, I keep talking over you. I can hear...
It's totally fine.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a delay, so that always makes it hard.
Yes.
But no, like what I was going to say is there have been several people that were brought on with Dr. Fauci to act as consultants, basically. Yeah, experts. And because they would not push the narrative for the pharmaceutical industry, they were taken off of the thing. So Fauci is the one that is willing to push the narrative in the favor of the pharmaceutical industry. And so he's been all over the place this whole time. And people make an excuse that it's because he's following the science. But my argument is these people that have been saying these things, like this one, the guy that is the inventor of the mRNA technology, has been saying from the very beginning that you can't vaccinate yourself out of an active pandemic because what will happen is you will end up with all these variants. And that's exactly what's happening. So I can't sit here and think that Fauci is not guilty because of the way he's not actually followed the data. It's like, if you look at the data that these people are putting forward, these people that are out there actually in the fight, it doesn't line up with what they're telling us on, on the mainstream side.
Well, and his big push right now is the way we're going to get out of this is booster, right?
Right.
So we're going to get out of this with
money.
Right. And so you can see all these companies, right? So, I mean, one of the top headlines this morning is Moderna, Pfizer, and others are trying to see what they can do to tweak their current jabs so that we make sure that we can tackle this new Omicron variant, which, as you pointed out, is mild at best. And the precautions, the lockdowns, the discussions about, I mean, just look at Japan, Israel, bar foreigners, as WHO is now flagging this as a global risk from Omicron. I mean, the headlines across the board, markets face weeks of uncertainty and wait for Omicron answers. So all of this, Grover is upset about it too. Like, COVID variant spreads to more countries as the world is on alert. Markets tank on Friday thanks to this. I mean, that's exactly why we saw this big Black Friday dump, is because of Omicron. Israel bans foreigners from entering country to stop Omicron variant. Israel now. I mean, all across the board.
Yes. Again, I just want to give voice to the people who are of two minds of this, who are like, well, okay, we don't want to endanger other people who are immunocompromised, so we want to make the best decisions possible. Also, we want to make sure the hospitals don't overcrowd and people who need transplants and other life-saving procedures can get them. But at the same time, shouldn't we maybe know a little bit more about it before we have this big political and government reaction to it, right?
Yes.
If it's only been something that really hit the collective consciousness, would you say Friday, Saturday,
Yeah,
right?
and this is how...
You know what a lot of people don't realize is that there are 2 Pfizer vaccines, right? Only one of them is approved, and it's not the one that's being given. So there's all of this information that is just like, we have no idea. We had no idea there's 2 Pfizer vaccines out there. We had no idea that the one that's we're being given is not approved. Like, these are experimental things, and it's like, there's so much information on both sides out there, and it's like nobody knows, because we don't have a media that actually goes out and investigates and educates us. We're left to our own devices and a lot of this stuff, and that's a dangerous place to be.
Now, listen how the mainstream media...
because we're not experts at anything like that. So all we can do here is deduce from information what we think is BS and what we think sounds reasonable.
But if you, yes. But if you look at the mainstream media and the way that they play this up, this is everyone's latching onto this as a major, as a major headline, as a major way that we're all gonna go back under lockdowns again. We need to go out and stock up on different food items and toilet paper, and we need to be scared. And I just want to say, follow the money. Right? Because this is all of these companies on Wall Street that are upset and worried about their bottom line right now, and this uncertainty in the market. They get on the phone with these leaders and they tell them, look, we need some certainty in the markets because we can't have our stock prices facing this wild uncertainty in the markets. Remember, the markets don't like uncertainty. They don't like that there was a possibility of President Trump being impeached, right? Either impeach him or don't, but don't give us this, we may do this, because this uncertainty is what drives the narrative.
But the news networks loved it, and we have to remember that. And we are, you and I, a news company, a media company, right, where we consider ourselves presenters of news, and we try to do this in a way that allows people to not freak out, to make empowered choices in their lives. And it's better for us when there's a new variant. It's better for us when there's a lockdown. It's better for us when the news is scary, right? So people tuning in and saying like, oh, it's okay. Like there's no crisis today. Like you could take it or leave it, your news. But we have to be responsible and realize what's the better thing to do as humans, right? To play it up, to tell you should be scared, or to just say, we don't know.
Exactly.
We're trying to make that decision and not scare you.
It's to say, well, what's the data? It's to say, what are the facts, right? And the facts right now, from really the only amount of research that's come out, is that this is pretty tame. Like this Omicron variant, which is supposed to be scary, that the news media wants you to believe is scary, and that governments are saying is scary, and we need to go into lockdowns because it's scary. It's not that scary. And I wanted to play this because this is how the mainstream media is playing this up this weekend. Watch how they admit right out of the gate, like, this is a huge concern. This is a huge concern. And then like 2 seconds later, like, we just don't know anything about this thing.
Concerns about a new COVID variant rattling markets and triggering new travel bans around the world. Tonight, we'll provide some context and clarity. We'll break down what scientists know about this variant and explain why health experts say people should not overreact just yet. Researchers first identified this new strain.
Just yet. We're going to wait until you can overreact. Go ahead.
Well, and understand that a lot of times when they say health experts and they say those titles, they're talking about people embedded in the pharmaceutical industry. They're not talking about people that are actually out there in the field doing the work and taking the data.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. They're getting people that are on the payroll. Like they're getting people that are the S and a benefit.
Just like when they're trying to sell a war, they bring in all these generals and all these, war contractors and stuff as their experts. That's the same thing they're doing with this. They're bringing in people from Pfizer. They're bringing in people from Johnson & Johnson, and those are their experts. And the data that they're giving you are paid for research. Like they're basically press releases from these companies.
Right. And
okay, I'm not saying this is the case, but can I ask a question, right?
Okay.
What if this variant is more mild but more contagious, and it does in fact give more people the virus in order to and then build up an immunity for all of us, right?
That's what they're saying is the potential benefit of this.
It's the possibility that this happens, that we all get it, we have a flu for a week, and then we're okay, although you'll have to quarantine for a bit longer in most places, right? And then is this data that will be given to us, do we trust that it would be given to us? Because in the United States, a recovery certificate is worth actually less than toilet paper.
Right.
Right? Because people value toilet paper more there than the recovery certificate. In Europe, you can get the virus and show your recovery certificate as the same value as a vaccine certificate, right? So are we then going to trust that a recovery certificate is good for anything in the Western world? Because it seems like, especially in the United States, it's not. Now, I'm not going to say that this is the case, but I'm going to say that it's for us to ask.
Well, I wanted to finish this video clip because this was funny to watch, like how they admit they don't know anything yet. But we need to be scared about it. We're spending our whole show
in South Africa earlier this week. Today, a World Health Organization panel named the variant Omicron and labeled it as a variant of concern. Health experts admit there are still a lot of unknowns about this variant. They don't know if it's more contagious than Delta. They don't know if it causes more severe disease. And they don't know how it stacks up against our vaccines. Still, the White House says it's taking action out of an abundance of caution. The United States will restrict travel from South Africa and 7 other countries in the region starting Monday. Reporters asked President Biden about the new policy early today.
We don't know a lot about the variant except that it is a big concern. It seems to spread rapidly, and I spent about a half hour this morning with my COVID team led by Dr. Fauci, and so that was the decision we made.
So we don't know a lot about it, but we're just going to block travel to all of these countries out of an abundance of caution. Okay.
So then why, I'm just trying to work out this model in my head. Why is the stock market up?
It's up today.
After a dump on Friday.
I mean, you're trying to figure out the markets.
Right.
You're trying to figure out like the why the Dow is up 300 points
it's
this
like
morning.
You always get a headline from the Wall Street Journals like stock is up on fears that, or
Right.
Futures are down on hopes that, as if like there's one little saying that's like people feel this, right? But I don't know what I feel. So what does the market feel that I don't understand?
Right.
What do you feel?
Yeah. Look, I mean, stock futures, oil rise as investors weigh. Here it is. It rises as investors weigh. So we're just weighing it now. Like we're putting it on a scale and we're just weighing what.
And people are saying, okay, let's go ahead and
right.
invest.
All right. Shares of vaccine makers jumped pre-market, of course. So we have all the.
Like I've said from the very beginning, if this wasn't about the money, they would have all come together and they would have figured out how to do this together. It would have been a global effort with scientists and the brightest minds in vaccine technology. They would have all got together and they would have worked on this and figured something out. But if
this wasn't about the money, then we would really have a discussion about the food supply system that weakens our immunity, that makes us more susceptible to a virus like this. We would be talking about sugar. We would be talking about forever chemicals. Those things make us all more vulnerable as a population to COVID and other pre-existing conditions. But that's not something that's ever
no, and that's why we need to educate ourselves. I mean, that's why this show exists, right? So we question these things. We inform ourselves and educate ourselves. Imagine if we had a president that came out and said, this COVID thing was pretty bad, but I guess what? The United States, why we got hit the hardest, we're the fattest country in the world. And we eat so much processed food. And hey, Kellogg's, I know you guys have been having all those striking workers over there, and they've been working their tails off, making Frito-Lays and all this other garbage food. You know what? It's kind of good that no one's buying it.
Well, don't you think it's kind of a tell, like a major tell, that if the pharmaceutical industry is protected by the federal government, with just the fact that they're going to hide that information of how that was approved so quickly for 55 years, that just tells you that's a protected class of people.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. So let us know your thoughts on this, guys.